Hey everyone, today we are going to build a modal from scratch in React.js. We will create a whole modal component which consists of animations as well as dynamic content rendering. As you can see here, this is the modal component that we are going to build. All the content in this modal is dynamic. Also, I have added a little styling. There is a dark overlay around the modal. This is a frost glass UI which blurs anything behind it. I have added a little animation where the modal comes from the top of the page. For the background, I have used this triangulify.io where you can customize different backgrounds with the triangular patterns and download it as an image. I have already created a React app using npx create React app. I'll be using a Sass for this tutorial. For that, we will need Node Sass, so let's install that with the npm. Let's clean up some code. Just write a hello world. We don't need this logo. In the index.js file, comment out this web vitals. Also index.css import. Change app.css to app.scss. Let's give it some basic styling. I like to use Popup font, so let's export it. Copy this link. If you are using a VS Code, just press Ctrl+P and write file name and press enter to open that file. This way you can open files faster than using a menu when your project contains lots of files. Paste fonts link here in the index.html file. Let's add fonts in the body. Now for the background, I already have an image, so let's import that. First, create a button to open modal. Let's create a state to open and close modal. Initialize it as a false. Create this toggle method to toggle state from a true to false and vice versa. Now when the modal state is true, then we will show the modal component, else we will return nothing. Add the toggle method in the button. And it's working. Let's create a modal in a separate file. Create modal.js. Here I am using a React snippets extension to create a functional component. Now instead of this, import modal component here. As a props, pass modal state as a show. Reconstruct the show from props using a curly braces. We will show modal when the show is true, else return nothing. It's working. Now let's create a layout for our modal. Start with the modal container. And in the modal div, first is the header part of the modal. This header part contains the modal title and close button. After the header, declare the main tag, which contains all the content of the modal. After the main, there is a footer. This footer contains two buttons, one for submit and another is to cancel or close the modal. Make sure to write class name same as this. Let's style our modal. Create a modal.sass file and import it in the component. Use position fixed to keep modal on the screen. Let's center it using a flexbox. Let me adjust this a bit so that we can see the changes. To make this width a little bit responsive, we can use the calc function. Let's add a close event in our modal. Pass toggle method as a close in the props. Deconstruct close from the props. And on click of this button, add close method. It's working nice. We also need to close modal when someone clicks outside of it. So add the same on click in the modal container. It's working, but as you can see, it's also working when I click on the modal. To fix this, we have to stop click events on the modal. Pass E here and write e.stop propagation. This will stop the events in the modal. And it's working great. Let's make content of the modal dynamic. And write anything here, or just write this is a modal content. For the title, pass it in as a props. Deconstruct the title and the children. Now instead of this, write title in the curly braces and do the same for the children. It is working. Instead of rendering modal like this, we can use portals. What is a portal in React? As I mentioned here in the documentation, portals provide a first-class way to render children into a DOM node that exists outside of the DOM. Why should we use a portal? As mentioned here, when you return an element from a component's render method, it is mounted into the DOM as a child of the nearest parent node. So when the parent component has an overflow or Z index, then we need the child component to visually break out of that container. For that, we can use the portals. We can use it for example dialogues, hover cards and tooltips. If you want to learn more about the portals, then I have already made a video on that. You can get its link from the description. Now let's use a portal. Create another div above the root div and give a modal as its ID. Cut this whole code. Import React DOM. And after the return, write React DOM.create portal. This takes two arguments. One is the element you want to render and another is the location of where you want to render it. For this, we want to render it in the modal div. In place of an element, paste the whole code. As you can see here, it is working great. This modal is also outside of the root element, but it can still access the modal states. Now let's add animation. Instead of this modal container class, we will put a condition . Write modal container plus when show is true, then add show class, else do nothing. We will hide modal containers using opacity and visibility. Show modal container when there is a show class. Change visibility and the opacity. And it's working. Let's use a transform property and start modal animation from the top of the page. When the modal container has a show class, we will set translate y to 0. And it's working great. Let me add a close icon for the close button. This icon is from Font Awesome. Set the close icon in the src of the image file. Add width and height of the image. I think I should change its name a little. And it's working. Let's add a default styling for the button in the app.scss file. Let's add some styling for both of these buttons and the rest of the elements. Now to make this modal look like a frost glass, we need to add only one line. Add a backdrop filter and set its value to blur up to 5 pixels. Now add a box shadow. And it looks good. That's the end of this tutorial. Make sure to hit a like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching.